when our life are so intense and we don't see how we're going to get out of it because we are so into our emotions and with our fears and what's happening with us, let's imagine we're reading a book. Look at it with interest, with compassion, and then the next chapter that we're almost beginning with curiosity. Can I get some wind in my hair? Hello, beautiful. How are you doing today? Well, I'm out in nature, and that is a big plus. It restores a lot of energy and faith, actually, because I don't know if you ever feel like that. I bet you do. But I am so tired of the hustle of life. I am exhausted. For those of you following the story, I'm playing hooky this morning. I didn't go to my Tai Chi class, these classes that I started like about a month ago and that I'm very proud of having committed to. I have had a week of nonstop commitment and doing like beyond what I can usually do with my limited energy as living with chronic illness, being a spoonie, and all that good stuff. And I have noticed, like I've seriously noticed, in the past week or even a little bit more, I am having a difficult time dealing with the fear of the future, the things I have to do, and the worries and the pressures of life. I'm getting back into the mindset once again of where am I going to live in 2 months and where is the money going to come from as I'm working on finishing my book and other projects. And it just seems like, oh my God, my mind cannot stop, and the inner dialogue is very loud and very negative. And I'm thinking, like, how did being human become so complicated? Right? It's like we work on raising our vibration, on being more grateful. Most of us put a lot of energy on what we eat and what we should not eat and how much time there should be between when we eat, and even in what order should we eat our food. Sleep is becoming a thing. Sleep hygiene. So many of us don't sleep at night. So now going to bed at night is becoming a project as well. Sleeping has become something we have to work at. We work at healing our bodies. Many of us are dealing with chronic illness, so a lot of our energy is what do I do? What am I doing wrong? What can I improve? When am I going to feel better? And then, of course, there's all the work that we do about changing our thoughts. So when I'm spending a week with negative thinking, I'm beating myself up. We work on healing our childhood wounds. Now we're analyzing, well, where does this pattern come from? And how can I heal it? And what's the new modality? I've been working on this for a while. Let me try something new. And of course, we hustle to make money. So it is becoming exhausting to be human. Okay, a little message, please subscribe. You have no idea, unless you have a YouTube channel, of how important subscriptions are for YouTube, for AI, to actually share the videos so that more people get to see it. So subscriptions are key. If you want to support me in any way, subscribe. And next step, share my channel, tell a friend about it, or share one video on your social media or to a friend in an email or in a text. That would be super, super helpful. Thank you. But anyway, that long rant here about the complications of being human has brought me to thinking and trying to solve things, right? It's like inescapable. But as I'm here walking in nature and thinking, oh my God, trying to be, but thinking, what can I do that is not so much of a to-do to improve, to get myself into something more positive? And what I thought of And I talk about this in my book, which I'm planning on launching towards the end of April this year. Cross my fingers. And it's the idea of looking at our life, our situation, our struggle, as if we were reading a book and the hero was somebody with our story. And so I can look at my situation and say, oh, this woman, she lived her whole life with chronic illness and her husband was sick and had stage 4 cancer and survived. And she got divorced. Then she moved to Sedona, but she had a hard time getting her act together. And she was always moving from place to place and didn't know where she was going to be the following month and was worried about money and her health and all these things. And then, that is the key part. And then what? What would we read that would inspire us? What would be the next thing that happens in this heroine's life that we would read and go, oh yeah, go girl, this is so cool. Personally, it's just to get my thoughts away from the difficult story and the struggle and just project something of what if in the book this was the unfolding of the story. When we read a book, we don't read about a character that is in the arc of their growth or their evolution and blame them for any passage of their life that we're reading about where they were negative, when they didn't seemingly make the right decision, when they had a hard time gathering themselves and that they allowed fear to come into their lives and overwhelm their thinking, where they beat themselves up. We would read this in a book. We wouldn't blame or judge. We would be interested. We would be compassionate. And then we would be curious about what's coming in the next chapter. So this is my suggestion to myself, to you, is let's take a moment, even like take the time to write. What would be happening in that book? What would make you happy reading the book and it gets to the part where something turns around and better days come into the life of that heroine? Heroine? I think that's how you say it. You get it. So that's what I want to say today. Let's imagine, just to get us off the carousel of the ongoing thinking of, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is not right. I'm not feeling well. What's coming up next? I'm afraid of this. I'm worried. I'm alone. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And all this stuff. Just to get out of this, let's get off and say, what would happen next in a book? In my book, it's a memoir, and I shared that story of going through life. There's a chapter that's called the chapter approach. And that's what it is. To use our life, to look at our life like a book with different chapters and a main character that in the end we admire, we're compassionate, and we're excited of the journey that they had. Complicated. Okay, those are my 2 takeaways. Let's take a step back from how complicated it has become to just be a freaking human without always having to change things. Take a step back, play hooky, go to nature, and just do the next step. What I did yesterday I had to do taxes. I spent 10 hours, and that drains me in a way that is difficult to explain. And in the morning I was having a hard time, and it was just like, Annie, stop thinking of the whole big picture of your worries and where your life is heading and that you feel alone and all this stuff. And just do the next step. What is the next thing that you have to do, want to do, choose to do, but just do that. And then when that is done, choose the next thing. So, solution for complicated being human, sometimes we have to just look at the next step and just do it. And try to stop our minds for a little bit, because this is overwhelming. 2, when our life are so intense and we don't see how we're going to get out of it because we are so into our emotions and with our fears and what's happening with us, let's imagine we're reading a book. Look at it with interest, with compassion, and then the next chapter that we're almost beginning with curiosity. And of course, we want to make the next chapter something that's inspiring and uplifting. And we would root for that character and that heroine and go, yes, go, 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 you did it. So let's imagine our you did it. A little bit every day if we can, a few times a day if we can, but just like get off that ride that we have going on in our heads and just give ourselves a breather and imagine that we are a fascinating hero. Those are my thoughts for today. Oh, thank you, nature. In my story, it's like, oh my God, if I look at it as a story, as fearful as I am in my life, look at where you are. What a story. Having to figure out life and your next steps and what's going to happen in a place like this. I know not everybody does. And it doesn't change the inner struggle, but I bet we all have something that we can say, oh, but I have this. And it makes my story interesting. Okay, I'm repeating myself. Wishing you a good day. I will see you soon. I love you.